Yo, today we'll be talking about one of the greatest football games in history, Football Manager 26. Now, I've watched a lot of videos on how to play this game, but none of them quite sat well with me. So without further ado, let's get right into it. Now, the one problem that everyone keeps having in Football Manager 26, you start the game, you get into a team, you're like, damn, my team is OP. You start the game, and L's, with no W's. And look no further, because when I started the game, I was also having the same issues. L's, with no W's. At a point in my career, I was almost sacked. Now I know you're waiting. Where is that almighty tactic that's going to give you the W's? Well, newsflash, buddy, there are no tactics. I think the tactic in the game all falls down to what kind of manager you are and how you coach your team respectfully. At the same time, this isn't also the Dance Madrid where the team is running on good vibes and pass the ball to Ronaldo. You actually need to implement some tactics, and those tactics is what I'm going to teach you right now. Now, the first thing anyone should do when getting started in Football 26, this is kind of a fast stretch, but this is how I started the game when I first began. I got a book and I got a pen and I wrote all the positions down and what it takes to play this position down, like this. Now, once you're done writing all this down on a piece of paper, the next step will be to click on this button right here. Now, this button that says team report tells you more about your team. Now, my report wasn't always like this. I mean, there were lots of reports like my team couldn't pass properly, we need an adjustment in pace, we are the lowest side in the division, or we're the oldest side in the division, and we have less. It can say a lot of things like that, depending on how the team currently is. But I've been managing this team for 4 years now, so this is why my teams look something a little bit like this. Now, when you get that information, you go to create a tactic. When you go to create a tactic, you use that to access on what tactic will be best for the team. Now, getting to tactic, it's be smart to actually read every single tactic and understand what tactic will actually suit the players that you're using. For me, I use gegenpressing, which I need a lot of fast players, and the passing style in my team doesn't have to be all that good for gegenpressing and I wouldn't advise you use gegenpressing just because I'm using gegenpressing, because you need a lot of fast players like fast wingers to help you press the opponent into their halfway line. Now, after selecting your style of play, this is where the team summary comes back into play. Now, there'll be a situation whereby this team summary is going to let you know you can't play with this formation because if you use this formation, you don't have good defensive midfielders to back up this formation, or you don't have good strikers to back up this formation, you don't have good wingers to back up this formation, so you should use something else. Now, you have to look for a formation that helps with the player that you actually have in your team. After selecting your tactic, the next step will be to come right here in view and select details and coaching report like I did right here. After doing that, you see some brown star beside the name of the player, and that's to show you how good the player is. The more brown star the player have, the more better the player is. And you also have players with gold star right beside of their name. Those are your star players, and it will be advisable for you to rest those players when you have a less important match. Now, the next step is where to put those players and what those players should do in the team. Now, remember when I said get a pen and a paper and write down all the positions down and how to play and what it takes to play all those positions. Now, this is where that falls into play. Now, the situation whereby you want the player to play this, but the player is like, nah, I want to play this, and you're like, nah, nigga, I'm the coach here. You play what I want you to play. Now, it will be advisable for you to read every single position and how those positions play in a match before you actually assign those players to actually play this position. Like as you can see here, the player itself said he can play as a box-to-box midfielder, but I want him to play as a roaming playmaker because I've actually read on what the roaming playmaker does, and I've seen the roaming playmaker and how he actually assists and helps the team. So I like to play with a defensive midfielder as a roaming playmaker. Now, just because I'm using a roaming playmaker as my defensive midfielder doesn't mean you should do the same thing. It also depends on what the player can play. Like if you're using a defensive midfielder who cannot play as a roaming playmaker, I wouldn't advise you tell him to play as a roaming playmaker. Or better yet, you can train the player on how to play in that position. Now take this player as an example. He says he can play as a wild centre back, but I preferably like to use him as a ball playing defender. And if you actually read the tactical role, you know that this player can also play as a ball playing defender. Now, the second thing you have to put in the back of your mind is always try to get the team's morale really high, because high morale means more game won. And how do you get morale high? For example, if a player scores a goal, it's advised of you to try to praise that player after the match, so that the team knows that the manager is actually very supportive, and that actually helps boost morale. Personally, I think shift on a relationship because it helps build relationship among the players, and it gets familiarity among the players, and I think that also boosts the morals of the player, and it helps them work together with each other. Now, if you enjoy content like this, please leave a like and a subscribe, because this is going to help the channel grow. And please also leave a comment down below if you enjoy content like this, so I can make more Football Manager 26 contents.